So pleased to have you with us. This is going to run 30 minutes, so we'll kind of move fast today. I'm pleased to introduce my fellow panelists. I have Corey Richards, Paul Bills, and Mark Summers all here joining us today, and really happy to have them here. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Excited to talk about Sal.
Oh, yeah. You're plugging the product.
I have spent too much time on this, and now I just want to show it off.
That's true. Sal, Corey has put in a ton of work in Sal. We're really proud of it, so we're excited to show this off to you. Some of you that have joined us today may not know too much about Mobile Coach. Welcome. Let me just spend a minute telling you a little bit about who we are. We're a tech company founded in 2013, based in Provo, Utah. Our primary product is what we call the Mobile Coach platform, which is a chatbot authoring and management tool. Basically anyone can come onto the platform and design and manage a single chatbot, many chatbots, all without needing software engineers. So that's the goal of our platform, to allow users to create very robust chatbots, but allow anyone to be able to design them. So that's a little bit about Mobile Coach. An important principle in understanding our philosophy with chatbots, and will be very important in understanding some of the functionality of what Sal can do for sales reps, is to understand that chatbots have two main modes. A lot of us, when we think about chatbots, we think about web-based chatbots. So you go to some sort of website and a chat window pops open, and sometimes you're chatting with a live person, sometimes you're chatting with a computer, sometimes it's a combination of both. But typically that's a very passive experience, meaning it's the chatbot's waiting for you to engage it with some interaction. Another mode of a chatbot is something we call programmatic. So this is where you can trigger the chatbot to initiate an interaction, or in a passive use case, point people towards certain different messaging paths based on what's happening, based on context. And so with a programmatic chatbot, you can really, it opens the world of possibilities, because you can actually have the chatbot initiate interactions and start conversations. And you'll see both of these modes alive and well in the Sal chatbot that we've built. So that's an important note to keep in mind, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into Sal. So in terms of the different types of chatbots, so the definition of a chatbot is a computer simulated conversation. And so when we think about passive chatbots, typically those use cases are going to be more customer service oriented. But there are a bunch of wonderful use cases where a chatbot can drive really great business results across the board for an organization. New hire onboarding, training reinforcement, so required training courses like safety and compliance. You can do fun gamification, all of these types of things. We have built chatbots, and our clients have built chatbots along all these use cases and more. But the last few months, we've really been focused on sales enablement, hence Sal. So we hope that's why you're here today. But as you start to get a taste of what chatbots can do in terms of their possibilities, you might come up with other ideas for chatbots for your organization. We'd love to hear about those. Now, another thing about a chatbot is that you can put a chatbot wherever people are accustomed to messaging. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this later when we present Sal, because a big driver of if whether your chatbot's going to be successful or not will be what channel you choose. And so again, we'll talk about that here in a second. So that's sort of like the overview of Mobile Coach and of chatbots. And now let's get into Sal. Let's talk about why Sal. Well, when I have talked to sales leaders and sales enablement folks, and also my own experience in sales, of course, a CRM is indispensable nowadays. We all have CRM. And I think consistently at some level, we struggle getting salespeople to maximize the potential value in a CRM. And the way I like to describe this is that not just a CRM, if you think about any software, there's going to be something that I call user friction. And this is true with any software, especially software that is sort of productivity based. So if you think about software, there are steps to use the software. First, you have to find where the software is. Is it on a website? Is it on an app? You have to navigate to it. There's menus, there's screens, there's things that you have to process that all take a cognitive load and also require clicks or swipes. And so all of that equals friction. And so you need to, the more friction you can remove, the more your software is going to be used. And so whether you're talking about an HRIS system or a learning management system or a CRM, you're going to run into this issue. So, so the next thing to understand is that there's sort of this vicious cycle that is created when you're using a piece of software that's data reliant. So in other words, if I make a query into my CRM and find that the data that's returned is not correct, and I know that it's not correct, then I start to get suspicious about, oh, well, maybe, why am I even using this? And so then this vicious cycle is that I don't do my job, my commitment to keeping my accounts updated in the CRM starts to waver, and it sort of creates this ugly vicious cycle. Is this like resonating with anyone? Do you all have this experience in your companies with your CRM? There could be other reasons why salespeople struggle to really leverage their CRM. Those are just a couple high level points. I would love to hear in the chat, for those of you, what do you do in your organization to encourage CRM compliance? Making sure to make sure that salespeople are utilizing it, making sure that salespeople are updating it with proper data. I'd love to hear some of your ideas. So just put in the chat some ideas of what your company does. We'd love to hear those. And let me see if I should have pulled the chat. I'll let Corey and Paul and Mark kind of monitor the chat. If you could monitor, or Corey, if you could just yell out some interesting things as they come in. Before we do that, though, please put in your ideas, because I'd love to hear them. And also put in some ideas in terms of other problems that you see in your organization of why the CRM isn't as utilized as it should be. So the last thing I'll say, and then we'll kind of pause, and I'd love to get some comments from my panelists, is that chatbots in general make things frictionless. And because you're removing traditional software obstacles, especially if your chatbot is on a channel where I'm already messaging. And this is really the value proposition for a programmatic chatbot to start with, no matter what. And so definitely applies here with Sal too. So you can think of Sal as a sales assistant, a concierge, to sort of bridge the gap between the intent that I have as a salesperson and the actual execution that I know I need to do to become a successful sales professional. So pausing there. Anything interesting coming in the chat? For some reason, I'm unable to multitask here. Corey, help me out.
Yeah, there are quite a few interesting comments. And just a note, it looks like quite a few people are doing it just to the panelists. So I'll read out some of those, but if you want to share it to also attendees so everyone can see what each other is doing and learn from that. So Danielle, I really like this idea, says that they're running their leadership meetings from CRM data. So that sounds really interesting of, if it's not updated, you can't run your meeting successfully. So I feel like that sounds like a good motivator, but maybe also, I don't know if that runs into roadblocks easily.
And it also means you don't get credit. If leaders are pulling data from the CRM and your data is not in there, you're not getting credit for your work. I can see that being powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Adam said reminders and best practices sharing. We have field advocates that help upskill and remind reps to enter info into CRM and the benefits to the org, but we cannot mandate they enter the info into the CRM. So that sounds like a really tricky obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah, to Corey's point earlier, if you're making a comment in the chat, I finally was able to pull up the chat because I could pause and multitask. At the bottom, you can choose who you're sending the message to. And so please choose to panelists and attendees so everyone can see your comment. So thanks everyone for participating in there. We'll have some time to get more of your ideas here in a moment. So I should also say another thing that what chatbots do is chatbots are automated. So chatbots never sleep. They can have thousands of conversations at the same time. They can be highly personalized. So you combine that automation and that artificial intelligence with the modality of this frictionless user experience. Boy, there's just a lot of possibilities in helping sales reps leverage their CRM and just leverage their job overall. So what does Sal do? Sal does three major things. So Sal can be programmed to do a lot of things, but all of them sort of fall into one of these three different buckets. So you can program a library of daily prompts that guide the sales reps to properly prioritize. And we're going to show you examples of all of these. Next, a sales rep can easily search the CRM for info on deals, people, and activities. Now you might say, well, our CRM has a mobile app. CRM has a rich web interface that has search on it. Absolutely. This isn't intended to replace those, but you will see anyone that has experience with frictionless chatbots, if you remove a step or two, people are just going to utilize that. It's actually quite profound in terms of usability in removing steps. And so you'll see that here in a second. And then lastly, sales reps can update the CRM with notes while things are fresh on their minds. I think that maybe it'd be unfair to say, but there certainly are some sales reps that thrive with people interaction and get less excited about administrative work. Come on. I mean, that's got to be true for lots of them. So writing good notes, being timely with their notes. A lot of people still will use paper to write down their notes. And so at some point, they're going to have to transfer those notes into the CRM so that the CRM can do its job. Hey, can we make Sal more frictionless in being able to do that? So those are the three buckets of what Sal does. Now I'm now going to show you a demo of Sal in action. And so while you see this, I'll do some color commentary, but I would love if you have ideas on what, hey, it'd be cool if Sal could do X, Y, or Z, please put that in the chat because we'd love to get some ideas. And maybe even if we do those things, we can show you how those things are done. So let's go to a demo. So I recorded this yesterday just for sake of making sure we didn't get gremlins during the webinar. So this is my phone yesterday, and let me hit play here. So the first thing that we offer in Sal is to allow the sales rep to program their own, they can influence their own daily prompts. And so you can see we have the Sal, this is an SMS-based demo. And so Sal sent me a link through SMS. I tapped on it and got this page, and I could say, hey, yeah, these are the types of things that I want. Now, you as the organization can actually decide how much customization you want to allow and how much personalization you want to allow your sales reps to have. You might decide, you know what, we want to be very prescriptive. We're going to create what we know that are the best daily prompts for everybody, and everyone's going to get them. Or you could say, hey, we want to have lots of different categories here and let a sales rep decide what they want to get. So in this case, I decided, I'm pretty up to date on the accounts that I have. So I would love Sal to help me with some deadlines and also give me some suggestions for activities, because I've got tons of people in my CRM and sometimes I have a hard time knowing what should I prioritize. So those are the things that I chose, and then I clicked on submit. The next thing that happens then is saves my preferences, and then Sal will kind of crunch the numbers and kind of do this algorithmic stuff in the background, and it will wake back up via SMS. And after this demo, I'll show you some of the other channels that's available. So there's Sal waking up. Now it's giving me a deadline. I have one item due today. So I can follow up with Sounds Great Inc. I also have a deal. So let me just back up because I know for me it's too fast to read. So here's the deal. Here's something to look at today. Your deal the global media website, a $6,100 deal. It's expected to close next week. Make sure you're doing all you can to get it to the finish line. Sal can also then send links. This is how links appear on iPhone. So when I click on the link, it took me right into this is Pipedrive. This is the CRM we happen to use at Mobile Coach, but it would work the same with Salesforce or any other CRM that you have. So again, I'm interacting with Sal through SMS. It's providing me links I can go in to get more detail. Then the next thing that Sal's saying is that remember that I can text search at any time to search the CRM. So I'm going to try that. So I type in search. Ask me what I want to search for. So I put in Luigi. Of course, you can imagine when you would want to use this if I'm out and about, or if let's say I'm an outside representative and I'm traveling to a particular locale, and so I want to search for other prospects in that locale, or maybe I'm thinking about a prospect and I want to know, like, I wonder what's up with Luigi, where am I with this account? So that's, lots of reasons why you'd want to use search. So then it searched the CRM, brought 2 results back. So then it says I can tap on these links to go to the detail view, and you can program Sal to actually send you the detail view. In Sal, how we use it internally, we just tap on the link just because it drives people back to the CRM. But now it says you can text the number of the search result and a note, and I'll add it in Pipedrive for you. So for example, 1, so which Luigi am I looking for? So I think I do that here. So I say this first Luigi Romano. And I type in schedule a call for tomorrow. And that's it. So again, if I'm on the road, really frictionless experience. And then I think Sal will tell me that Sal's done it. Great. I've added that note for you. If you want to add another, just, etc. So what I do here is that I went back into Pipedrive to show you, I found Luigi just to show you that there's the insertion. So Sal updated CRM for me. It's in here. So when I'm back at my desk, I'm going to have that note there ready for me to work with. So that gives you an idea. Hopefully that's consistent with what we pitched in terms of what Sal does, and that just gives you a taste of the type of chatbot interaction that you can have. So if you imagine where you have Sal, then that's going to drive a lot of usage. So if you're a Microsoft Teams shop or a Slack shop, or I used SMS just because in the United States SMS is very pervasive, but we support all these other types of channels as well. You can have Sal on one of these channels or all of these channels. You could embed Sal into one of your own apps if you want, as well, as long as your app has a messaging capability. And the idea of choosing where to have Sal should be driven by where you're going to get the most frictionless user experience. Where is it going to be the easiest for your sales reps to access Sal? SMS in the US is highly engaging. 98% of messages are read. 90% of SMS messages are read within the first 3 minutes of being sent. So it's probably the most engaging channel in the United States. You might find some resistance from IT and your privacy folks using SMS. And so if that's the case, then hopefully there's another channel here that is appropriate for you. Hey, would you put in the chat what channel you think would be the most engaging for your sales reps? I'd be really curious to know who's represented here. When the global pandemic started, we saw a lot of our clients really being committed to collaboration platforms like Microsoft Teams and Slack and WebEx Teams and Zoom. And so I'm curious if that's the case with your organization as well. So that gives you a little bit of taste of Sal. The next thing I'm going to show you is how this gets set up. So let's talk a little about integration details. I'm going to show you some technical integrations today, some detail of technical integration. We don't have time to dive deep into the technical integration piece. So I'll give you a taste of it today. And if you're interested in more deeper dive in the technical aspect, of course, please let us know. We'd be happy to share that with you. So I'm going to close or stop full screen. I'm going to go into the Mobile Coach platform. So Sal, of course, as you might imagine, is configured in the Mobile Coach platform. The Mobile Coach platform, as I mentioned earlier, is a platform where you can configure chatbots. So we have a script library. So in our script library, anyone that has an author license to our platform has the access to all these different types of chatbots so that they can import into your Mobile Coach instance. So if I go to sales training, the two we have ready to demo for you today are Sal, Sales Assistant for Pipedrive, Sal, Sales Assistant for Salesforce. I'm guessing many of you are Salesforce users, so we're going to click on that. So the first thing that you would do is that we have this library document of all sorts of messages. And so we do have a default sort of off-the-shelf version of Sal. My hunch is that you would want to really customize the messages for what's best for how your sales team runs deals, runs activities. And so we anticipate that you would want to tweak and modify Sal to suit your organization. So we've got a library that's always growing of different types of messages. There's alerts, there's search messages, posting, updating messages. So you'd go through here and sort of decide, yeah, these are the types of things that I think would be valuable for our sales reps. So let's look at this one. I wanted to show you this one here. So here's a sample message for a deadline alert. So this message would say, here are upcoming deadlines, and then a little bit of notes on how it's integrated with Salesforce. So I'm going to go back to the Mobile Coach platform and let me find that script in here. Search for deadlines. There it is. So here's the script. Here are your upcoming deadlines. A little typo there, I should say your. And then if I go to my content tab, we have custom fields that are mapped to Salesforce. And so if you have configured Salesforce to be very specific for your organization, no problem. When you copy this script template into your instance, you can come in and edit all these field names to be consistent with how you've configured Salesforce. And then we have already pre-configured API connections with each of those connections. And so if I find, here's that opportunities due soon. This is the API connection. This is how it's powered. We just come in and double check that the Salesforce data, which is the left-hand side, is mapped correctly to your chatbot, which is on the right-hand side. And without getting into too much detail, we've basically created a library of messages and done the connections with Salesforce, done the connections with Pipedrive, and we're working on HubSpot and Microsoft Dynamics as well. So that's a little bit about how the integration works. Paul was on our team, did a lot of the legwork here. Am I missing anything, Paul? Any comments to make on how that works?
Well, I was going to ask you about other CRMs because there's been some comments in the chat about specifically Microsoft Dynamics. So we covered that. But yeah, I also want to say that what you're seeing here is, like Vince has mentioned, is not set in stone. So we're adding to this. We're still building it. We're still growing all these lists you're seeing. So Sal will evolve like all of our chatbots and have additional functionality over time as we discover what works for different salespeople, what they're really looking for. So we're kind of starting with this base of Sal, but the plan is to grow and develop and change Sal over time to be even more powerful and useful.
Yeah, and that's why I was really curious to your feedback, everybody on the call. It'd be great for you to put on your chatbot author hat for a minute and say, here are a couple messages that I think would really be significant reminders or nudges to our sales team. So if you have some of those ideas, please put them in the chat. If you're worried about having them proprietary, then of course we can talk offline about that. But if you don't mind sharing your ideas, I'd just be curious on what types of messages you think would be most powerful for your team. When you think about it and come up with those messages, most likely we'd be able to accommodate wiring up that message that your idea, because both the Salesforce, Pipedrive, HubSpot, Microsoft Dynamics APIs are pretty robust. So we really haven't run into a lot of obstacles yet when in our own brainstorming to say, hey, wouldn't it be cool to send this message? We look into it, and sure enough, we can make that connection and make that message happen. So if you want to try Sal, Sal is an interesting chatbot in terms of being able to demo because it's so context heavy. So we've made the decision not to create a generic version of Sal because unless you know your pipeline and the accounts, it sort of would feel empty. And so we would love to accommodate you trying out Sal, but it will require implementing into some instance of your CRM. So a lot of people that have Salesforce, for example, will have a production in a sandbox environment. Happy to put it into a sandbox environment for you to try out. Do some minimal basic setup. You can see our basic setup, and you might want to just tweak it a little bit. Get some experience around what that's like to set up Sal at a really, sort of pilot type of way. And then you just start using it and start gathering feedback and getting some ideas for a production version. So any of you interested in trying Sal out, please let us know. We'd love to facilitate you trying out Sal in a customized instance for your organization and see what people think. You can choose who you'd like to email. Put my name up front though, Vince@mobilecoach.com. So we just have a few minutes left. I'm just going to pause. Just as a housekeeping reminder, everybody on this call, everyone that registered for the webinar will get a link to a recording of today's meeting that please feel free to share with colleagues. But pause here, and what questions do people have? Corey, are we having people ask questions through audio or through the chat?
I can allow people to talk if they want to raise their hand, or there's the chat or Q&A. So wherever you're most comfortable.
Are there questions that people have asked that we haven't answered yet?
Adam.
Yeah, you got it, Corey. Go for it.
Just asked, will Sal work with Viva CRM app, or is it only available to integrate with an online CRM like Salesforce?
Well, so I bet that was a question from Adam. So I would need to look, and I should have done this in advance, but if Viva because Viva is built on top of Salesforce, I believe, so we just have to investigate how it's built, and if they extend Salesforce APIs into Viva, then it would work. But we'll do a little bit of homework and let you know on that, Adam. Any other questions that folks have? Before we end, and while we wait for any potential last questions, please put in the chat what you think. What do you think about Sal? Do you think it has potential? Is it cool? Do you have questions about it? I'd love your feedback. Thank you again for joining. Feel free to sign off if you're done, but we'll hang around for a few more minutes if people have questions.
There's a question, Vince, on timeline for Microsoft Dynamics.
So we're just finishing up HubSpot integration. That should get done very quickly, and then Microsoft Dynamics is next. And so I think that, probably by the end of April, we would have Dynamics ready to go. All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, thank you for joining. Oh, I see, yes, Sal is available now, but with the caveat of you need to have, Sal is available today. If you have Salesforce, I would say even HubSpot would be ready to go, or Pipedrive. But just going back a slide, you would have to be able to have your own CRM instance. But if you do that and you have permission to have API keys to that CRM instance, then yes, Sal is ready to go today. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate your time and love your feedback. So hope everyone has a great day.